Hey everyone, this episode is another installment of our Revenue Rockstars series. If you haven't checked it out yet, there's a link to it in the show notes below. We wanted to share this one on the podcast because our very own Greg Bond sat down with Mickey Locey, president of mXtr Automation. They talk about how to avoid analysis paralysis and getting overwhelmed with all of the data that's available to us as marketers. And they also cover what to do after a successful campaign so you don't get stuck in that marketing rut. And they cover things like tactics that Mickey is seeing that drives measurable results like pipeline and revenue. There's a lot to cover in this one, so let's get into it.
Mickey, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and your company for us?
Absolutely. Thank you, Greg, for having me today and for the kind words. That was quite a nice introduction. So yeah, Mickey Locey, president, co-founder of mXtr Automation. We are a full service marketing and tech shop, right? And we specialize in marketing automation. Really specifically in marketing automation for multi-location organizations. So we work with franchise groups and their network of franchisees. We work with manufacturing groups and their network of dealers. We work with direct clients, and we also support other marketing agencies, and we become their marketing automation partner. And so when we say full service, it's a little different than what a lot of full service agency definitions might be. We say full service because it's all things associated with implementing a successful marketing automation initiative, right? Everything from copy to design to platform setup, CRM rollout, we do it all. And then we do a little bit of PPC and retargeting management as well, but only for clients that we manage the automation for. So that's our claim to fame. We've been at it for about 6+ years now and going strong.
I want to talk a little bit about Revenue Rockstars. What is a Revenue Rockstar? Who are Revenue Rockstars? Basically, it's a marketer or an agency leader that prioritizes the entirety of the customer journey and thinks in a comprehensive, full funnel approach to drive measurable results. And I'm curious, Mickey, do you have any folks that you can think of that you look up to as a Revenue Rockstar, or people that you respect in the industry?
Well, I mean, yeah, definitely a few of them jump to mind right away. And I think both these names will probably resonate with everybody that's on this webinar, right? And the first name that comes to mind is Gary Vee, right? I mean, he is legendary. I mean, how do you top that, right? And then, of course, the second name is Seth Godin. I think he's another rock star status individual. And I think what's most interesting there is, I start each day with content in one way, shape, or form from those two guys. And I find myself sharing it usually with someone in my network, and more often than not with my entire network. I mean, it's inspirational, and it's, that's why they're rock stars, right?
That's why they're rock stars, exactly. And good news for you, we actually have a lineup of Revenue Rockstars that includes Seth Godin coming up in future episodes of this webinar. There's a whole host of people, everyone from major influencers in the industry to great partners of ours here at SharpSpring who are doing some pretty amazing things to grow revenue for their clients. So please go ahead and sign up for the rest of this series. Register for Revenue Rockstars webinar series. You can register on our website and definitely go ahead and register now. Oh, there's the URL. Thanks, Elise. SharpSpring.com/revenue-rockstars. Head there, go ahead and register, and you can be a part of some of these really great webinars that are coming up.
Just the fact that I'm on a slide with Seth has made my entire year.
Well deserved, Mickey, well deserved. All right, so now jumping into today's content, I'm really excited about talking about this, especially with Mickey. Mickey and I have had this conversation many times on our own. Doing it for the first time on a webinar here is pretty interesting, but Rockstars evolve over time. This is all about optimization is the path to retention. That's kind of the main topic that we're working through here today. So starting off with the first question here, Mickey, how do you get started and break through the noise to drive real impact?
Yeah, so getting started, right, it's always probably the most difficult part of the process, right? You and I have definitely had this discussion with various clients that we've onboarded over the years, right? When you bring a client into the organization, there's a great deal of excitement around it and lots of opportunities, lots of challenges, and lots of things to accomplish for the client. That's why you're there, right? But the key is really finding a way to identify the one key aspect. We like to call it the lowest hanging fruit that we can really focus on. That's going to allow us to drive the most impact for the client, right? Deliver the most bang for the buck, if you will.
Yep. So we call that in this, the rock star move is start with one killer track. Start with one thing and do it well and do it right. And I think there's a couple of things that you just mentioned that are sort of supporting factors of that. Focus, differentiation, and impact, right? Mm-hmm. So focusing on that one thing. Talk a little bit more about how kind of focus and focusing on the differentiation and the impact really drive this this strategy.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think when you're able to identify that one thing, which isn't always easy to do, right? Again, because there is so many things going on there. What we find is when you have identified it, this really acts as the most common conversation, the center point of your entire strategy as you move forward, right? Because it allows you to build off of it, allows you to then differentiate yourself based on what you're going on, because you have this center track, this baseline, if you will, to really focus on. When we start with a client, when we onboard a client, one of the first things we always do with that client is ask them what success looks like to them, right? And that helps us get to the root of this one thing, right? So we ask them, what does success look like at 90 days? What does it look like at 6 months? What does it look like at 1 year? As you can imagine, the answers for the clients they're different, right? They're different by client. Certainly, if there's one commonality with almost every client, they say, I want to sell more widgets, without a doubt. But there's other things that come out of that conversation, and we'll get back to the selling more widgets because that's another thing we want to talk about here. But there's other things that come out of that, other KPIs, other measurable success benchmarks, if you will, that come out of that question that allows us to really focus in on that key factor that we want to make the center point as we move forward. You know, could be something as easy as and as simple as they want to have better connections with their customer base, right? Could be they've got a small database of customers right now, and they're looking for ways to grow that database so that they can start to make those connections, right? Mm-hmm. We had one client that told us, look, we're struggling to understand our true sales cycle. We don't know exactly what it is. We think it's X, but it might be Y. So that becomes a focus for them. One of the common ones that we hear a lot is, you know, last relationship we're in, the last agency we're working with, our internal marketing team, whatever it might be, we're generating leads, but they're just not good quality leads. We got to find a way to get better quality leads. And I think the last one I want to bring up that's becoming more and more common with our clients is the data side of things. They want to gain control over their data, right? And so the list could go on and on and on in terms of other things that they define success as, but when you combine those with all that noise that we talked about at the beginning in terms of the opportunities, and you kind of put those together in one thing, it really allows that area of focus to jump out at you. It quickly allows you to understand what that differentiation is and what our opportunity is to drive that biggest impact. That makes sense?
Yeah, no, I'm curious because I know we see this a lot in our business too, is that, you know, people come onto the platform even and they want to focus on everything. They have a million ideas of what they want to do and how they want to drive their marketing forward. And you can get lost in it, right? Like if you don't focus on one thing, you can kind of get a little lost.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you get lost, and what happens is you start spinning your wheels because you don't know where to start. Right. Mm-hmm. So then all of a sudden, this great technology that you're paying monthly license fee for ends up sitting on the shelf and not getting you the results that you want to get to. You have to get started, right? You have to pick that track, get going with it. We find if you start with, here's all the things I think I want to do, but here's the things that are really important to me to measure. Look at that. You're going to find that place to start, that lowest hanging fruit, if you will, that place to start. And I'm willing to bet that 9 times out of 10, that becomes the center point for all things as you move forward.
Right. And I would guess as well for an agency, you know, you're working with a client, when you can do that one thing that is most important, that drives the impact, that one thing is what gets you the next thing and the next thing and the next thing with that client, right?
Well, there's no doubt about it, but I mean, it lends itself to where you go next, right? So it lends itself to, we talk about conversations, right? That's our MO with our customers and our philosophy. And we're probably going to talk about this a little bit more here in a little bit, but I mean, we talk about that. So when you can start this conversation, that one conversation, then all of a sudden you're able to branch off and start having additional conversations, right? And it kind of lends itself to where you're going. And yes, certainly additional work, additional things can be asked of the agency as a result of that. We may find that we need content to be able to carry on that conversation most effectively. So you've got content creation opportunities that come your way. We started our company, we didn't expect to be doing lead gen, right? We didn't expect to be doing PPC and retargeting management. We are.
Right. But
right?
You got permission to do that because you nailed one thing.
Right. That's exactly right. It's exactly right. And so it's a good fit. And you know, it's when you start to tie all of this together, it becomes pretty powerful. So yeah, that focus and doing it really well allows you to get started and allows you to to really deliver some results and then use that as the foundation for where you go next.
Our next question here is, how do you move beyond that one-hit wonder status? You got that one killer track that you release now. Yeah. How do you move on to the next thing and get past that one-hit wonder status into more sustainable growth?
So, you asked me that question when we spoke last time, and been thinking, a lot about it. And the reality is that's really kind of the secret sauce behind what we do, right? But the reality is it's not a secret. It's not something unique to us or anybody else. It's just a philosophy, I think, that you need to buy into. And it's kind of an understanding that all things in all aspects of what you're trying to accomplish, client, and what the client is trying to accomplish for their business should focus on one thing, and that's the consumer, right? And this is different than the old customer is always right stuff. I mean, you can still believe in that if you want to. This is focusing on the consumer, a consumer-centric approach to marketing, and specifically with marketing automation, right? I mean, our belief, and I say this to every client that we talk to when we're on board, and I think, hard to argue this point, that there was a day when the idea of marketing was you took your soapbox to town, you get on top of that soapbox and you scream at the top of your lungs all the great things that you do, and people would flock to you to do one of the 10 things that you just listed off, right? And we kind of carried that through in marketing. And, and you think about the days of email newsletters and sending an email newsletter out with 20 things in it and expect the customer to open that newsletter and figure out out of the 20 things what's most important to them. That's not the way it works anymore, right?
That's not the way it works, yep. So our rockstar move here is know and grow your audience. I don't want to interrupt you. I want you to keep going. Know and grow your audience.
That's right. That's right. And so if you're doing that, right, if you're taking that consumer-centric approach, as we like to call it, what starts to happen is you start to have these really powerful connections, and we always talk about creating moments with your audience. And I think the best part about this is that as marketers, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, right? I don't have to have all the answers anymore, right? I can start with this one conversation that we talked about moments ago. I can get it in play, and guess how I win as a marketer? I've got this great technology, right, that I'm driving all of this data back to. And so now I can listen, I can watch, I can see how that conversation is performing. And the consumer, who I've put at the center of my communication, is going to tell me what I should do next.
That's right. Their behavior, that behavioral tracking, that feedback mechanism to be able to see what your marketing's doing, be able to report on it and turn it around into action.
How are they interacting with our website? Are they digesting the content that I thought was important, or are they discarding it, right? Are they opening our emails? I mean, are they having conversations with our sales team? And is our sales team logging that information in the platform? That's all data that I can learn from and get better on my next interaction with them. It's powerful. And that's why we say, I mentioned that, in the beginning in our intro, that we don't do any of these lead gen initiatives for clients unless we're doing automation, because we feel that data and that data coming back to the platform is the most critical aspect of marketing right now, right? Businesses need to own that data. They need to drive it back to the platform, and they need to tie it to an individual so that we can get smarter about those communications we're having, with consumers.
Right. It allows you to have that personalized message, hyper personalized messaging approach to your customers. It's not spray and pray anymore. It's highly targeted, the right message to the right person at the right time with automation at scale.
That's it. That's it. It's so funny because I was going to say the exact same thing. It's the marketing mantra we learned back in college, right? It's the same thing. I mean, there's more R's involved in it now, but it's the right thing. But yeah, I mean, that's it. And certainly as marketers, we can continue to optimize our campaigns. We can test, right? And again, the beauty is the data coming back, we can learn from it. That's the power of this thing. If we're tying it all back to the consumer, what Greg's going to like, what Mickey likes, is going to be totally different. We could be buying the same product and at about the same time, but we're going to go about it in a 100% different way. And the brands that make that connection are the ones that we're going to connect best with. I firmly believe that. I believe as if you think about it, just as marketers and business leaders, if we look at our own lives and the brands that we interact with, it's the brands that connect with us consistently are the ones that we're most tied to, right? And that's what's expected, right?
It's like relevant content that they're handing you that is on a consistent basis, that every time you see it, you feel like they're reading your emails, or they know exactly what you need, and they're giving you that information to help you move yourself further down the funnel.
That's how we avoid it, to your slide up here. That's how we avoid the one-hit wonder, right? Because no longer I mean, look, we got a smart team here, and mXtr does wonderful things, but we don't have to have all the answers, right? We've got to get started. We've got to watch the data. We've got to then tweak, to optimize, and continue and improve what we're doing and what we're sending out to customers. We believe a lot in surveys too, and we interact with surveys, and we put those and drive that data back into the SharpSpring platform, because again, just ask the question. The consumer is going to tell you, right?
Right. As long as you got a way to capture that behavior and understand and interpret it, you've got all that you need.
Right.
Awesome. Well, let's move on. So we start with one killer track. We know and grow our audience. What's next? Let's head on to this next slide here. All right. How do you accelerate growth, reach scale, and deliver real, measurable results?
Well, it's easy. I mean, I think that's the $1 million question, Greg, right? And again, you and I have talked about this forever and a day as well. But I mean, as marketers, we all know we're held to a standard, right? And we're expected to deliver results. And to be clear, they've got to be results that are measured. Now, to me, the best part about the approach that we've been talking about up to this point in time, this idea of driving all this data back to a platform and owning all of that data, is not only we can deliver results, but we can actually show our clients that we can drive revenue. And to me, revenue is the key to this whole thing. Bottom line, right?
Rockstar move. Go platinum. Go platinum, because revenue matters. Revenue matters.
Well, I mean, I think if you think about it, right, whether you're an agency that's presenting quarterly numbers, or a marketing director that's presenting to your executive team, right? The number that everybody cares about at the end of the day is revenue. That's the voice, and that's the language that everybody speaks. Now, you have up there on your slide, and I heard it, I think it was during the last webinar that you guys did, that term vanity metrics, and I love it, right? And I have to say that I've adopted it. I wish I would have come up with it, but I've adopted it. I think it's awesome. We've been preaching it for years. I mean, this idea of measuring impressions and clicks and open rates and all those things, we don't put a whole lot of focus on that when we're delivering metrics to our clients. Certainly, we have not abandoned them, right? Our implementation team relies on those KPIs because that's important to be able to continue to optimize the campaigns, right? Make sure the impressions are right, make sure the open rates and everything's performing the way we want. But when it comes down to delivering KPIs and reporting to our clients, we're focusing on revenue, right?
Yeah.
Because,
and how many times have you said, oh, we got this many clicks and this many impressions, but your sales team's still going, you're sending me crap leads.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Well, right. And that's exactly right. So this methodology and what we're doing here allows us to totally abandon that whole thing of the salesperson saying the leads are crap, because now you can look them right in the eye and say, no, in fact, I delivered you this many leads. You've closed 0 of them. as opposed to the other salesmen who have delivered this many leads and he's closed X of them for this much revenue. We're in a position to have that conversation. And that's what we want to get to. I mean, again, the mantra in reporting needs to be, and the conversations that we have with our clients are, what kind of increase did we see in revenue month over month?
Right.
Quarter over quarter, year over year. I've been at the marketing agency thing before mXtr. I was in the agency business as well. I was never able to have these kind of conversations in that life, right? Back then it was all those vanity metrics that you mentioned before. Now I'm involved in conversations that, frankly, as a marketer, is pretty refreshing. That I'm at the table having revenue, forward-thinking conversations with my clients. That's pretty exciting. I mean, I'll give you one example. We have a client that's been with us for about 4 years. Great customer. Think the world of them. We started with them when they first came to us. We talked specifically, in that dialogue in the beginning. We talked about their life cycle, right? What does that path to purchase look like for a lead that comes into their funnel? And they had done a ton of research, spent a lot of money on a third-party research firm that told them all kinds of great things about their consumer. And that path to purchase, 6.5 months. Okay, so now fast forward, we are collecting data now for, at this point it's probably been about 2.5 years. We're collecting data. We're starting to see trends. We now realize that consumer can make their purchasing decision in 4 months. 4 months. So we drop on average 2 months off the buying cycle. Well, just think about that from a business standpoint. How many more leads are able to close as a result of that, right? But what gets better now is because we're driving all this data back to the platform. We're handing leads off to the frontline team through this platform, and we're getting data back on sales through this platform. Not only can we tell you what that path to purchase is, but we can tell you how much revenue was generated and what your average ticket was in that time period. So now, fast forward to today, when we go into meetings with this client, the KPIs that we're delivering, we focus in on that, right? We're looking specifically at how many leads did I generate in this time period? How many did we close? What's my close percentage? And what's my average ticket per sale, right? This client now is doing projections, revenue projection-wise, off of the data out of our system.
That's fantastic.
Right. So now we can sit here and say, we had a dip, and we did in July. It was down, right? So we know now potentially that's an impact in revenue for this organization 4 months from now.
4 months from now, yeah.
What are we going to do about it?
Yeah. And you now have 4 months to make a decision about what you're going to do to make up that gap, because you now know what you saw now is going to trickle down. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, to me, they're the conversation I enjoy having. Now, look, and probably a lot of people on this webinar are this too. I mean, your principals of agencies, your business owners, right? So we live and die and breathe all of this revenue stuff and every day, right? Is how we keep our business running. Well, it's the same thing our clients are doing. And now we can genuinely contribute to and make an impact in that planning session within an organization. To me, there's no better place to be as a marketer.
And one of the things, Mickey, in talking to you over the years and just kind of understanding your philosophy, and it's something you've said a bunch and I love it, this whole idea of go further, right? Like go further. If you're a marketer, you're likely doing the hardest part. Is that right?
That's totally what I believe. And we work with a lot of agency partners, as I mentioned, and I have this conversation with them all the time. I mean, there is no doubt if you're an agency, if you're a marketer at an organization, you have already done the hardest part of what we're talking about here today, right? You have built a website. You have put strategies in place to drive traffic to that website. You've optimized that site to make sure that you're getting the most traffic that you can to that site. You've put conversion optimization strategies in place to make sure you're putting the leads in the funnel and that you're getting as many of them ready for your sales team as you can. So now you convert and the lead enters the funnel. Why would you stop there? Why wouldn't you bring that in and then try to continue that conversation and continue having an impact with that consumer all the way through to the sale? We can do that, and we should be doing that.
And it's mainly just the tools, right? I mean, you have the tools to do it.
100% right. I mean, that's, goes back to the beginning. It's the technology that allows us to do this, right? It's the technology that puts us in a position to be able to do these things. Like, if we take the philosophy that the consumer is at the center of everything and that there's data available out there with every interaction that that consumer has with our brand, and we're driving all that data back to a platform, i.e. SharpScreen, right? Driving that data back there, we're in a position to do everything we just talked about.
That's right.
That's the key to it. Technology puts us in that position. Now, look, as marketers, we have to make the technology, sing, if you will, right? It's the strategy, it's the optimization, it's the approach that we're taking. That's the key aspect of all of this. But the technology gives us the data to be able to have those intelligent conversations and ultimately put us in that position to improve with each interaction with our customers.
How do you become a Grammy Award-winning, Super Bowl halftime show performing, legendary revenue rock star? What's that last step to be just iconic?
Yeah. So again, you asked me this question in prep for this, and I thought a little bit about that as well. And I go back to the slide you had before. You don't want to be that one-hit wonder, right? You don't want to do this once, make a connection, and then stop, right? That's just bad. So I believe it goes back to consistency. I believe it's consistency in what you're doing. If you're making an effort to be consumer-centric with your brand and with your messaging, you can't be part way in. You got to be all in, right? And if you're all in, you're going to win. If you're not, if you're part way in, consumers can tell brands that are only part way in, right? And that's no good for everybody. So be consistent and committed to the philosophy and to furthering that philosophy with the consumers when they come in. I talk to clients when we go through onboarding, right? Or even sometimes during the sales process. And I have, I talked about the question I asked about success in the beginning. Another question I always ask the owner or the leader of the organization, I say, Mr. and Mrs. Executive here, look, if you had the opportunity as the leader of this organization to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation across the table like you and I are having right now with every visitor that interacted with your website, how would that conversation go? What would it look like? How many leads would you close as a result of that? Well, what leader isn't going to tell you that they closed, all of them, right? Because they're going to have a great conversation. But they quickly then say, yeah, but that conversation might be slightly different based on, let's say I'm dealing with a car dealer, right? It might be slightly different if the guy's coming in looking for used cars versus new cars, or maybe he wants a F-150 versus a Toyota Prius. I said, exactly. Exactly. And that's our job, right? Our job is to take that conversation that you would have and you would be successful closing, 9 out of every 10 visitors to your website. Our job is to take that conversation, break it up into little bite-sized pieces, and serve it out to that consumer at the right time. Not based on what we think they want, but based on how the consumer is interacting with your brand. That's it. And if you're doing that consistently with every interaction, I think that's how you turn into Whitney Houston and being a Grammy-winning rock star, right?
That's right. Rockstar move. Diversify your sound. Yeah. Diversify your sound. Expand.
Yep.
Change. Adjust. Right. See what's coming in. Listen to your customers. Change. Adjust. Move. Optimize. Optimize over time. If you don't change over time, you're going to end up with a short relationship.
Well, and I think talk about that short relationship, right? I mean, again, we talked a little bit about, potentially stopping short with putting leads in the funnel and not doing this. Well, we shouldn't also be focused on the fact that we're just trying to get these folks to buy once from us, right? Again, we can't stop short here. We have to be consistent. We have to be continuing to develop this relationship. I mean, they come in and they buy once. Super, we win. Okay, we can tell the client that we've got some revenue for them this month. But the fact is, that relationship is now stronger than it's ever been. And the opportunity now for referrals, reviews, upsells, cross-sells, I mean, you name it, whatever the next path is for that particular consumer, you're in the driver's seat now to have that relationship, right? You're in the driver's seat to communicate with. Look, there's a reason that our communication out of your platform for clients that we manage for any period of time, our open rates in our emails are consistently 45% and plus, right? That's because we've made a connection with the consumer. They care about what we're talking to them about. I I mean, you compare that to a typical email newsletter open rate.
Yeah.
Significantly different, right? And when you have that level of interaction with a customer, you've got them to this point. Just be consistent with it. Don't give it up, right? Keep doing what you're doing. Keep providing value to that consumer, and yeah, you'll have a customer for life, as they say.
Yeah, if you're delivering the right, happy customers are the ones who are coming back for more. You're delivering on the promise that you've created in your marketing messaging. You continue to deliver on that by listening, by taking in that feedback. You can turn around and have those long-term customers for life.
Yeah. And I, look, we could go on forever, and if I'm off topic, I'm sorry here, Greg, but
no worries.
I want to circle back to the data, because the other interesting thing about this is, again, because you're driving all this data back, now you can sit here and you can start to analyze that pool of customers that made a purchase, right? And where did they start from? And what does that journey look like, right? Now, our desire is to start to get some machine learning and some AI going on in there so that we can get really smart about what's going on and automatically say, well, if they digested this kind of content, I've got to serve them this thing up next and go on from there, right? We believe that's where this thing is going to get to. And then all of a sudden, this is really, really exciting. For now, though, having the data and being able to just have that interpretation of it, it's exceptional.
That's what you need.
Yeah.
All right. Well, wrapping this up, just wanted to quickly cover those key takeaways again. Start with the one killer track. You got to know and grow your audience. You got to go platinum and diversify your sound. So start with that one thing, that focus on the one thing that's going to drive impact. Learn from your audience, collect the data, turn it around, make it work for you. Go platinum is driving that scale and focusing on revenue. The thing that matters the most here is driving that revenue, and then diversify over time, grow your audience, grow your customer base, get more of that cross-sell, upsell by delighting your customers. Anything else you want to add in summary here, Mickey?
I mean, other than the fact I just tell you, I mean, it works. I mean, it's not like, again, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I didn't invent any of this philosophy or anything else, but it just works. I mean, there's a reason that, we've been with you guys for almost 6 years as well. Our clients have been with us, some of them as long as 6 years. You get in and you start running this type of philosophy and this type of program, clients stick with you. They stick with you. And to me, that's exciting. You're keeping clients because you're delivering results and you're becoming such an integral part of their organization, moving things forward. So, it's,
how good does it feel to be able to deliver on those revenue goals for your clients as well? I mean, it's just,
it's awesome, right? I mean, we work with, we work with some bigger brands and their network of dealers or franchisees, right? But these, when you think bigger brands, you think, oh, okay, you're working with the big boys. Well, the reality is the big boys are just made up of a whole bunch of small boys, right? Small girls, right? They're all the same thing. They're both a bunch of SMBs out there that we're working with. So we have quarterly meetings with these folks. And when we have meetings with the local market folks and review their data and can tell them the KPIs that we just talked about, here's how many leads you got, here's how much revenue you generated this much from participating in this particular program. And we can say, here's how you compare to the rest of the system in that regard, right? And then the SMB at the local level is thanking us for the impact that they're having. I mean, I had a guy last week tell me, he starts an automation sequence in the platform. He starts it because he couldn't get a hold of the customer. He checked the box, started an automation sequence, thought he lost the deal. Simple thing, but the email goes out to the customer. It's with the tone of just kind of, hey, where you been? Are you still interested in doing business with, kind of thing? The owner's on doing his own thing, thought he lost it. Guy clicks a button, says, yeah, I'm still interested. Guy got a notification to his phone, called him right back, closed a $30,000 deal. So is that satisfaction? Yeah, I'm pleased having that kind of an impact and to get that kind of a story back from our clients. Absolutely.
Love it. Well, Mickey, you and I could go on and on. All right. Thanks, Mickey. Thanks, everybody.